Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Izuku becomes the Spider-Man and got harem with Kyoka Jiro and Mina, part 1. So before we start, go check out the author of this fanfic, Slayer76, link is in the description, also subscribe to our channel, and like this video, so let's begin the video. Izuku Midoriya had wanted to be a hero more than anything else in the world, taking inspiration from every pro hero he saw. But one pro hero had more of his attention than any other. All Might, the #1 hero. The man who fought without fear and announced to the world, "I am here." That's why, when young Izuku woke up only to find out he was stuck to his bed sheets after standing, he was ecstatic. Then he slipped. "Mom, I did it," Izuku screams as he peels himself off the floor. Inko Midoriya rushes into the room immediately assessing the situation. "What's wrong, baby, are you hurt?" she asks as she tries to pry him from the floor and fails completely. "Give mommy a minute, I'll use my quirk to pull the sheet off." She uses her power to attract small objects to pull his blanket towards her. A bead of sweat rolls down her face as she attracts the blanket. Slowly but surely, Inko manages to pull the blanket off the floor. Izuku is still stuck to the bottom of the blanket and he's laughing. "I have a quirk, I have a cool quirk. Honey, try turning off your stickiness, then we'll go to the doctor and get this figured out," Inko says while wiping the sweat off her face. Izuku concentrates for the next 10 minutes and falls on his feet. Doctor's office. "This is so cool, I get to be a hero like All Might," Izuku says while rocking back and forth in his seat. The door opens and a bald man with round glasses and a lab coat walks in. "What seems to be the problem here?" he asks with a calming voice. "My son activated his quirk and is having trouble with it," Inko responds while pointing at Izuku's hand, which is still holding the door to her red car. "Remarkable, highly advanced adhesive abilities and super strength. Let's see if an X-ray and blood sample will reveal anything else." As the doctor grabs the syringe and brings it closer to Izuku's arm, he begins feeling a weird buzzing in his head and yanks his arm back. "Leave me alone," Izuku says with a voice that isn't human as a green substance crawls over Izuku's face, forming a mask with a white mouth and black sharp teeth. "What is that?" Inko screams. "Looks like a physical manifestation is part of your son's quirk. He has a living entity living as a part of him. Don't be alarmed, I met a young man with a bird head who had a similar issue, except he was more hostile," the doctor says as he holds out his hand and fires a wave of blue mist at Izuku, knocking him out. "My quirk allows me to put people to sleep, your son is fine. Now, time for that X-ray." 1 hour later. The doctor came back and explained what he had seen. "Apparently there is a green sludge thing in the arm we were about to draw blood from, and it is constantly moving underneath the skin. It changed positions twice over the course of an hour. Once it moved out of the arm, he was able to see an unnatural object in his wrists that looked like a spinneret and a slit in the palm of his hands. Let me try something." Izuku interrupts as he focuses on his right hand and flicks his wrist. THWIP, a thin string of something shoots out of his wrists, hitting a paper on the wall. He yanks his arm back, the paper flies across the room and lands in his hand. The doctor pokes the web with a finger and immediately pulls back with a jolt. "It shocked me, you have electric webs. This is amazing, spectacular. If these webs get stronger, you might be able to use these to knock out villains and restrain them," the doctor says while jotting down notes. On the way home. Izuku has been uncomfortable for the past 10 minutes. Every time a car horn goes off, the sound makes his insides start to feel like they're being punched. The next day. Itsuki is a young boy with ash blonde spiky hair and sharp red eyes. His quirk allows him to cause explosions by igniting his nitroglycerin-like sweat. Due to this, his body has become much tougher so that his body doesn't take damage from its own explosions. He is also Izuku Midoriya's only friend, so naturally he was the first person to be told about Izuku's mutant quirk. "That's fucking cool, but mine is fucking awesome," Kitsuki announces as he prepares to cause his hands to unleash an explosion. That buzzing sensation returns and Izuku is suddenly airborne. Moments later, Kitsuki sneezes and accidentally fires an explosion at Izuku's previous position. "I love this agility and my stickum powers," Izuku says while hanging upside down on one of the park tree's branches. He pulls on his hand to get it off the tree branch, but he ends up pulling the branch off instead. Izuku starts falling and he tries shooting a web at the other branch, but the web snaps immediately. Izuku falls face first into the ground and breaks his nose. When he pulls his face off the ground, he realizes that the green thing from yesterday is moving behind his nose and suddenly his nose stops bleeding. Izuku runs back home to show his mom his broken nose. Izuku notices that he is moving much faster than a boy his age should be able to, but doesn't realize that his nose has already repaired itself until he gets home. The start of elementary school. Izuku is 6 years old at this point, his green eyes have gotten darker, and his messy hair has gotten much messier. Okay class, come to the front and introduce yourselves. The white-haired teacher with yellow eyes and a dark skin tone announces. Izuku quickly pulls out his quirk analysis book to write down what he hears. When it's Izuku's turn he gets up and tells the class his name, but chooses not to tell them everything his quirk can do. My quirk is called Wall Crawler. It allows me to stick to anything with any part of my body. I'm also capable of shooting electrically charged spider webs that are super sticky from my wrist spinnerets. Izuku says while pointing at the bulges in his wrists, shocking his teacher with his big words and simultaneously confusing his classmates. Lame. You're just a freaky spider. One of the kids yells from the back. Says the guy who's wearing a metal face mask because he has a mouth full of acid spit. At least I can kiss a girl without melting her face off. Izuku fires back immediately. What girl would kiss a spider boy? Your breath probably smells like insects. One of the girls in the middle of the room shouts. This girl has a quirk that allows her to shoot water from her hands. Okay, this ends now, Midoriya you can sit down now. The teacher interrupts. Izuku walks to his seat, making sure to walk past both of the people who dissed him. As he passes by the girl, he taps her shoulder, giving her a tiny shock, and she lets out a sound of surprise. Shut up before whip out your tongue and shove it up your dot Izuku says, before abruptly shutting his mouth with a blush on his cheeks. He quickly shuffles past the boy with the face mask and a green web rips it off. This causes all of the spit inside to fall on the desk and it quickly melts through it and the floor. Luckily for the boy, they are on the first floor and the school has no basement. The teacher sends the boy to the principal's office and Izuku sits down while pondering what just happened. I still have no idea how to stop my symbiote, from taking over my voice and acting on its own as that green creature. NB2 connected the symbiote says in broken English. You still can't talk in complete sentences. Izuku sighs as he realizes that he'll need to teach his symbiote how to speak. Weak, brain access hard, assimilate info the symbiote responds. You can't access my brain yet, but you need to access my brain in order to learn speech faster. Yes the symbiote answers. You should have said that when you started talking last year. Sorry the symbiote apologizes, prompting Izuku to rub his thumb over the spot where the symbiote resides. Izuku sits quietly for a few minutes before a thought comes to his mind, you need a name. Venom the symbiote suggests. Sounds evil. Carnage. Villain. Toxin. No. Scream. You hate sound. Mayhem. Not heroic. Salvation. Fine, but if a better idea pops up I'm renaming you. It's halfway through the school year and Izuku still hasn't made any new friends, they all avoid him because he's super smart and he doesn't let them copy his work. Plus, his powers keep acting up and he ends up causing property damage every other day. Whether he was sticking to his desk and pulling it apart accidentally, he was accidentally firing electric webs when he moved his wrists and pulled parts of the wall out, making the wires in the wall get short-circuited. Then there's the time that he accidentally caused a school-wide power outage by touching the fuse box. Luckily for his mother, the school never fined them for damages. Every day just seemed to blur by and neither Izuku nor Katsuki could tell you why. Izuku was the smartest student in class, but Katsuki was definitely the most popular because of his flashy quirk. This meant that they would inevitably drift apart due to Katsuki's new fame. The supersized ego from all the praise didn't help either. Katsuki was hailed as the next All Might by students and teachers alike. The final straw was when Katsuki uttered the name Deku after Izuku refused to fight back and lost. Despite all this, Izuku didn't care, all that mattered was getting stronger, strong enough to surpass All Might. He spends most of his days training in secret drawing designs for his future costume and writing about quirks in his notebook. But not even Izuku's spider sense could warn him about what was to happen next. The loud voice shakes the building and sends Izuku to the floor while holding his ears. Present Mick. The man who uses my heart counter. Izuku thinks to himself as he picks himself up. Can I kill him? Salvation asks. No. Present Mick yells louder. I'll think about it. The Salvation responds before screaming after another sound burst. The entire school, 350 people, rushes outside to see who's talking. Good morning students, this is Present Mick coming to you live with an important announcement. Today, I'll be helping you with your basic quirk training. My bosses decided that interacting with kids at a younger age would decrease the number of accidental deaths and future villains. Other heroes have been dispatched to other schools for the same reason, but you guys are lucky enough to get the one and only voice hero. Present Mick. Can I get a yeah? Yeah. The entire school screams, nearly sending Izuku back to the floor. You win this round. Present Mick. Izuku whimpers while pushing his hands against his ears harder, hoping to turn down the volume. The end of the day. Training was really intense for Izuku. Once Present Mick figured out that he had more stamina than his entire school, Izuku was tasked with doing more than anyone else. While other kids had to run a mile, Izuku would run 4. When the other kids were tasked with doing 20 push-ups, Izuku did 50 with a Present Mick sitting on his back. Then it came time for quirk training, and this is where Izuku struggled the most. He was tasked with dragging Present Mick around the school by using his webbing without shocking him. This had 2 purposes: strengthening his webbing and teaching him how to control his electrical output. Did I forget to mention that whenever Izuki's web snapped or he started to complain, Present Mick would yell cheesy motivational quotes like "no pain, no gain," and "plus ultra." By the 6th quote, Salvation was ready to gag him with webbing. By the 40th quote, Izuku was happy to follow through with Salvation's idea. This led to Izuku learning how to shoot balls of webbing at Present Mick. Unfortunately, the voice hero dodged every web shot. Izuku wouldn't wonder where they landed until he got home. "This best annoying," Salvation says, as Izuku finishes his 12th lap. "Faster," Present Mick screams, causing Izuku to cringe. "I'd be faster if I wasn't carrying a 200-pound man who makes me weaker every time he opens his mouth." Izuku snaps, accidentally going back to taser mode. "Be," Present Mick screams, and Izuku falls unconscious. "Oops," Present Mick thinks to himself as he tries to pull the webs off his chest, only to find that he can't, and his hand is stuck to it. That's a problem. Present Mick tries to detach the web by running away until it gets pulled off, but he gets yanked back after a certain distance. He picks up a stick and tries to break the web, but the stick gets stuck. He uses sticks to start a fire and burn the webs, but it has no effect. If only he knew that Izuki's father passed down flame resistance to his son. He keeps trying stuff like this for an hour, until Izawa comes by. "Quit playing around," he says before yawning in his hand. "This web isn't coming off." Present Mick screams, still running around. "Fine," Izawa says before his black eyes turn red. He activates erasure. The webs fall off of Present Mick's chest, and his hand is freed. Present Mick picks up Izuku and carries him to the principal's office in order to find his address. Once the address is found, Present Mick and Izawa take him home, sneaks through the window, and sits him on his bed. They vacate the premises, and Izawa lets out a yawn. "This is all your fault, Hisashi. I could be sleeping at home right now, but you just had to volunteer me for basic quirk training. You know you had fun teaching the kiddies." "Fine, but you're never talking me into teaching again." Mick. Rejected Quirk Ideas Part 1. "What can my son do?" Inko Midoriya asks the doctor in shock. "He can create any type of gem by using his body fat and use them to form constructs," the doctor says once again, while pointing to the boy sitting on an emerald horse. "I'm rich," Inko screams as her eyes transform into $signs. It's just about time for Izuku's story to truly begin. The story of how Izuku became a hero. So, as third-year students, it's time to start thinking seriously about your futures and what you want to do with the rest of your lives. I could pass out these career aptitude tests, but why bother? We all know you want to be heroes despite the fact that some of your quirks are friggin' useless. The teacher mumbles the last part. Like seriously, the guy whose only power is pulling his eyes out of his head believes he can be a hero. Don't mention me in the same breath as those worthless rejects. With their useless quirks, they'd be lucky to become a hero secretary. You get 3 guesses to decide who said that, but the first 2 don't count. You and your pride are starting to piss me off, Kakin. You think just because you're powerful you have the right to bully, antagonize, and disrespect the people you deem inferior to you. Well, I'm going to prove you wrong. You've built up and hid behind this illusion that none of your peers can be better than you. Well, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to destroy your pride by becoming the #1 hero and let you feel the way you've made everyone else. I'm going to grab that illusion you've made and shatter it." Izuku shouts while his fingers dig grooves into his desk. Izuku's little speech silences the classroom and his peers wait with bated breath. Kitsuki is known to blow a fuse from somebody sassing him. They were afraid to see what an insult would spark. And like they'd feared, Kitsuki had become enraged. "How dare that useless Deku talk back to me, I'll show him his place," he thinks before screaming die. As he charges towards Izuku, knocking over everyone in his path. "Game over," Izuku thinks to himself as he fires a web at Kitsuki's right palm and sparks his electricity across the web, paralyzing that arm. This prematurely sets off the explosion and creates a smokescreen for Izuku to play in. Izuku charges into the smoke and pulls back his right fist in preparation for his finisher. He slams his fist into Kitsuki's stomach. The only thing the class sees is Kitsuki rocketing out of the smoke and into the wall. They feel a gust of wind that blows the smoke away, revealing Izuku, fist outstretched and a smirk fully on his lips. "Your illusion is cracking," Izuku announces before the bell rings. Izuku cracks open the window and jumps out, landing on the ground before rocketing himself to the rooftop across the street. He will take the rooftops home today. His mom is getting home from work late today, so Izuku is going to make dinner himself and make his mom a separate meal when she gets home. Error. The woman turns from a smoking computer in shock, another one. She whines at the smoking computer behind her. The title Deku doesn't get captured shocks her even further. How's Izuku supposed to learn from All Might if he doesn't meet him before UA? She spends the next hour trying to figure out how to fix this. I got it, she declares as she rapidly types into the keyboard. Back to the Spider Deku universe. Izuku is channel surfing while eating his ramen when he lands on the news channel. We're coming to you live from downtown as a sludge monster is holding a junior high student captive within himself. The boy seems to have an explosion-based quirk that's running wild and starting fires. Kamui Woods, Death Arms, and Mount Lady is on the scene to apprehend the villain, but he's impervious to all of their physical attacks, and Kamui Woods risks being set on fire if Backdraft can't extinguish the flames. While Mount Lady is too big to enter the arena. The reporter says as her cameraman zooms in to give the viewers a clear view. Izuku was about to start writing down notes about their abilities and tactics when he saw that the captive was Katsuki Bakugo. Damn it, I can't shatter your illusion if you die too early. Izuku says as he bursts out the door, locking it behind him. He jumps onto a roof and jumps from rooftop to rooftop until he reaches the action. Izuku leaps over Death Arm's attempted crowd control and lands in front of the sludge villain. You seriously don't want that guy inside of you, you might get indigestion or a disease. Izuku announces his presence and draws everyone's attention to him. Kid, you need to get back, Kamui Wood informs him after landing next to him. Sorry, but that's not going to happen. I'm here to save an asshole, Izuku replies before shooting a web line at Katsuki's exposed torso and pulling on it. This begins a game of tug-of-war in which the sludge villain loses badly. When Katsuki is out, Izuku starts shooting balls of webbing at the sludge villain. It's no use, physical attacks can't touch me. The sludge villain says, and Izuku immediately responds. Those webs will shock you, Izuku says before electricity starts to dance across the sludge and heat it up. This hardens the sludge just enough for Izuku to trap him in ordinary webbing. Once this is done, the reporters immediately shove their microphones in front of his face. Izuku answers their questions truthfully until they start asking for his name and other info that he wouldn't like to share with the city. He finds an opening to escape when Death Arm starts guiding civilians away. Izuku is walking down a side street with his eyes closed when he hears a voice, I am here. Izuku opens his eyes and jumps back in shock. All Might was in front of him. All Might was talking to him. Izuku immediately goes into one of his infamous mumble rants. Be quiet, I came to ask you about what happened back there. Why did you jump in to save your friend when pros were doing the job already? All Might interrupts. He isn't my friend, I hate just about everything he believes in. Sigh, but I couldn't just let him die like that. Nobody deserves to be murdered. Izuku says while flashing back to one of his old classmates. He had a quirk that allowed his right hand to negate any quirk it came in contact with, even mutation quirks. Unfortunately, it did nothing to stop ordinary explosions. All Might is left staring in awe at Izuku. He's the one, I'm sure of it, he thinks to himself before making his offer. Inherit my quirk and become the next person to carry the torch. What do you mean inherit your quirk? Quirks can't just be given away. If they could, it would change everything we know about how quirks work. Izuku replies. That's true for every quirk except two. My quirk has that power. Most people like to assume that my quirk is some type of super strength or invulnerability, but that isn't true. My quirk stockpiles power from one user and passes that power on to the next. That user refines the power and adds to it until they choose a successor. I'm the 8th user, and should you accept my offer, you'll be the 9th, All Might whispers into Izuku's ear. Sure, I'll accept your power. But, you have to explain why you only work 3 hours a day. Izuku agrees. How do you know how long I work? All Might asks with a small hint of fear in his voice. The internet. The fans of Pro Heroes have a website that tracks everyone's work hours and shows how they changed over time since their debut. Why do you think villains with fire quirks mainly commit crimes while Kamui Woods is active and ice quirks vanish at noon when Endeavor starts patrolling? Izuku explains. Fine, I'll tell you why, but you have to keep it a secret. All Might agrees before telling the story of his battle against All for One and explaining who he is. This Saturday, meet me at Dagaba Beach, he says before jumping away. Saturday? Why are we here? Izuku asks as he shoots webbing at his nose to block out the stench. All Might immediately responds, we're here to strengthen your body so that transferring one for all into your body won't kill you instantly. I'm already strong, just look at this. Izuku replies before walking over to a refrigerator and lifting it with one hand, causing All Might to choke on his spit. Incredible, he says before asking how he's so strong, but so small. My quirk gives me the traits of a spider, which includes the ridiculous strength that spiders have, the speed, agility, spinnerets, and some abilities the doctor couldn't quite explain. Oh yeah, I also have a living organism inside of me, Izuku says as he shows him each ability. What does the organism do? All Might asks with that giant smile on his face. As it is now, it can make and shoot its own webbing, make pants out of itself, and play around with my body's anatomy. Izuku explains as his cheeks turn pink. How strong are the webs you make? All Might questions. They can hold 10 times my body weight. Izuku responds after doing some maths. What about me? Salvation asks. He didn't ask about you. Meanie. He doesn't know any better, Izuku whispers while rubbing the symbiote. Did he forget I'm still here? All Might thinks to himself as he pulls out a hair and shoves it into Izuku's face while screaming, "Eat this." No. Why? When was the last time you washed your hair? Yesterday morning. Did you put something in your hair afterwards? Yes. I'm not putting that in my mouth. You need to consume my DNA in order to gain one for all. Salvation, take care of this. Fine, but you owe me. The green tendril shoots out of Izuku's mouth and snatches the hair. The tendrils wrap around the hair and retreats back into Izuku's body. What was that? My symbiote. What did it do? It's currently analyzing the hair and removing the hair products. Once that's done, it'll deposit the hair into my stomach for digestion. That's cool. Give me a second. Izuku says before that tendrils return and deposit a glob of hair grease onto the ground. You used too much grease. Izuku informs him. Clean the beach while you wait for one for all. All Might tells Izuku while writing down use less hair grease. It took an hour to clean that beach. Izuku would attach web strings to as many pieces of garbage as possible, pull them close together, and web them up. Once that was done, he would pick up a garbage ball and toss it into the garbage truck. Salvation says moments before green electricity arcs across Izuku's body. Good, now clench your cheeks, plant your feet, and scream, smash. Smash. Izuku screams as he punches the air, creating a gust of wind and splitting the ocean. All Might watches from the sidelines with a look of pride on his face. Izuku has a smile on his face, which quickly vanishes once the pain kicks in. You should have warned me that my arm would break. Izuku screams, but All Might isn't sure whether it's from pain or anger. I kind of forgot that fact. It's been decades since I acquired and mastered one for all. Plus, I never had to deal with the recoil for some reason, All Might reveals while rubbing the back of his head. My teacher is an idiot, Izuku thinks, as his arm hangs limp at his side. Give me 5 to 10 minutes. Salvation states as he slinks from Izuku's head to his broken right arm. In 10 months, the UA entrance exams begin. Every Saturday until then, I'll train you and teach you how to hold back. All Might states before running after the 3 police cars that just flew by. 10 months later. Are you ready for this? Salvation asks, his excitement easy to see. As long as I don't have to meet President Mick again, I'll be fine. Izuku responds, eager to get in there and kicks ass. Izuku looks to his right and sees a girl with brown hair trip. Izuku vanishes in a blur and reappears behind her, then he sticks his right hand to her back. And she immediately stops. I think you dropped something, Izuku jokes as he picks her up with one hand. Thanks for the save, falling before a big event is a very bad omen. She says before telling him that her name is Ichako Uraraka. She turns around, revealing that her eyes are also brown, and tells him good luck. Izuku Midoriya, good luck on the practical exam, Izuku tells her before they walk into the buildings. They walk into a giant classroom to take the written exams and come back out an hour later. How do you think you did on the written portion? Ichako questions Izuku as soon as they leave the room. I aced it, yawn. I've been studying hero tactics and quirks since I learned what a hero was. Izuku says before grimacing at how that made him sound like a super nerd. Cool, I struggled a little bit. Question 39 asked how I'd use my quirk to save a hostage being held at gunpoint, but my quirk isn't suited for that scenario. Zero gravity allows me to make objects ignore the effects of gravity after I touch them. That isn't very helpful for this type of scenario, so I had to get super creative with rocks and discarded clothing articles. Ichako said before they reach their destination. Izuku opens the door and sees someone he hoped to never see again. Present Miss Izuku growls as he and Ichako go to their assigned seats. Izuku's day gets even worse when he realizes that they're grouped by schools. Meaning that Izuku Midoriya was sitting right next to Katsuki Bakugo. Welcome young heroes, it's the one and only Present Mick coming to you live from the UA entrance exams. Can I get a hell yeah? Silence. By this point Izuku is forced to put his head down on the desk. Today, the name of the game is Urban Combat. All applicants will be transported to one of 4 facilities designed to recreate an urban area. You're separated from your classmates too, so no teaming up with friends. Once there you'll be tasked with racking up points by beating robots. These robots come in 3 varieties. 1-pointers, 2-pointers, and 3-pointers. President Mick screams before getting interrupted by a question. Sir, the pamphlet clearly shows that there are 5 robots. If this is a typo, it is a very big stain on UAS reputation. And you, he turns around to point out Izuku with his head down. If you're going to sleep through the instructions you might as well go home, this school isn't a place for slackers. This makes Izuku's bad mood worse, and he almost snaps, mind your own business, it's not my fault that my quirk gives me a weakness to extremely loud noises. If the world didn't insist on giving us the loudest hero, I'd have been perfectly fine today. Hey, you're that little dude from way back. President Mick shouts after remembering his face. But anyways, the other 2 robots are nearly identical, except for 2 things. One is a 0-pointer obstacle, and the other is a whopping 100 points. You can't tell the difference, so you might as well run from both. And also, the 100-pointer is made from a metal that has minor shock absorption as a built-in function. The applicants are transported to their facilities, and Izuku can't help but wonder how UA's budget is big enough to allow 4 giant cities. He sees a nervous Ichako a little further ahead and he goes to talk to her, but a hand grips onto his shoulder. It's that same guy with glasses who called him out earlier. Are you trying to sabotage that girl? She's clearly trying to concentrate. He almost yells. Don't touch me. Did it ever cross your mind that I know her, or that I'm trying to comfort a girl that is clearly nervous? Izuku growls out before smacking the guy's hand off of his shoulder and walks toward Ichako, leaving the red-faced man behind. Calm down, you'll do fine. Izuku says softly, and Ichako becomes slightly less tense. Thanks Izuku. She replies before the gates swing open and President Mick screams go. Izuku picks up Ichako and leaps over the other people, gaining a very large head start between them and the crowd. Thanks again best buddy, Ichako says before they go their separate ways to get points. Izuku comes across a 3-pointer and shoots a web string at it before sending a taser's worth of electricity at it, blowing it up. Next a group of 1-pointers appear at Izuku, smash the one with a sword arm and toss the sword arm into the red eye of another 1-pointer. Sorry to cut in, but I really need to pass. He says before he flips over that one and tosses it into the last 2, destroying them with the explosion. Izuku runs up a nearby building and backflips off of it. He shoots a web string at another building and starts swinging around the city. 5 minutes pass with Izuku effortlessly smashing dozens of robots into each other. Then something goes wrong, Izuku's spider sense starts going crazy and 4 giant robot arms smash through a building in front of everyone. Run away, somebody in the crowd screams. Izuku perches himself on top of a building nearby and he notices the Chaco's leg is stuck under the rubble in a way that clearly shows she was running away beforehand. To make matters even worse, one of those robots' feet is almost on top of her. What am I going to do now? There's only one way I could stop that robot in time. He thinks about jumping off of his perch and diving at the 50 feet tall robot. No time to regulate the power, so I have to give it 100%. Izuku states before green electricity dances across his right arm, leave her alone. He screams as he punches the robot's head and sends the entire thing flying. It destroys 3 of the buildings behind it before crushing its head against the wall on the other side of the fall city. Meanwhile, Izuku is falling to the ground, face first, and arm flapping in the wind. As he gets closer to the ground, green webs shoot out of his legs and attach to the buildings nearby. At the same time, Ichako slaps Izuku's face to activate zero gravity. Seeing that Izuku is fine, Salvation releases the webbing and Ichako pulls Izuku into her lap. She cancels zero gravity and vomits behind the rubble. Time's up. President Mick yells as all the robots shut down. An elderly lady starts walking through the city giving out gummy bears that decrease fatigue and starts treating the injured by kissing their wounds. When she reaches our duo, she's shocked at the sight of Izuku's arm. It's healing before her eyes. Sure, it's slow, but it isn't hard to notice cuts being stitched shut by a green tendril and then the tendrils vanish, leaving behind flawless skin. Let me fix up your ankle, then I'll work on his arm. She tells Ichako. Did you remember to floss? Inko Midoriya questions as her son rushes out of his room and shoots a web string at his backpack. Yes, I remembered to floss today. Bye mom, love you, Izuku responds as he leaves his home on the way to UA. I still can't believe that I smashed a 100-pointer and scored 79 points from normal robots. Kitsuki must be so pissed off to know that Deku not only beat him but also destroyed the old record by 50 points. Izuku thinks as he jumps to school. It's a good thing that Izuku's naturally enhanced agility and strength aren't outlawed by the quirk laws. Permanent enhancements aren't banned from use, you're just fined more if you fuck up. Izuku arrives in the UA with 3 minutes to spare. And once he's inside the courtyard, he looks at the map on the wall to see where Class 1 is. The web swings to the other side of the building, since hero school students are allowed to use their quirks on school grounds unless they get that privilege revoked by staff members. Izuku lands next to the window and begins to tap on the window lightly. A girl with purple hair looks up at the window and starts walking towards it. She unlocks the window and Izuku climbs in while thanking the girl. "My name is Izuku Midoriya. Nice to meet you." Izuku introduces himself while sticking out his hand for a handshake. "My name is Kyoka Jiro, nice entrance." She replies while shaking his hand, but when she tries to let go, she finds out her hand is stuck. "Oops, I forgot to turn off my stickiness," Izuku says while blushing in embarrassment. "Is that your quirk, sticking to stuff?" Kyoka says while chuckling. "No, I have the powers of a spider and a symbiote," Izuku answers. "What's a symbiote?" Kyoka questions. A symbiote is an organism that uses a host to survive. Sometimes it's mutually beneficial and sometimes it's parasitic, and a symbiote is a major problem for the host. Fortunately, mine is mostly the former, Izuku explains, accidentally slipping into mumble talk. Thanks to her good hearing, Kyoka heard every word. Fumikage also heard this and started speaking, so, if somebody else can understand the struggle of living with another entity inside of them, Dark Shadow also causes me problems. His will and my own clash more often than not, only my willpower keeps him from rampaging. Fumikage exposits. "Have you ever tried to sit down with a Dark Shadow and talk this shit out?" Izuku queries. "In absolute darkness, he can't be controlled and he can't be reasoned with. Bargaining with it isn't an option. Then don't bargain with the rampaging beast. Teach the docile version how to control itself. If it learns to stay docile while powerful, you'll become an unstoppable god of the night." Izuku replies, his knowledge of quirks coming in handy for once. It identifies as a he. "Thank you very much," Dark Shadow replies after being manifested. "Sorry, I didn't know darkness could have a gender." Izuku apologizes before allowing Salvation to manifest half of a mask on the left half of his face. SLAYER 76. It's the same one from before. "So, what's your partner like?" Salvation shoots a question at Dark Shadow. "He's a total stick in the mud, doesn't even try to get a girlfriend." Dark Shadow responds, sending Kyoka into a quiet giggle fit. "Same here," Salvation replies. "Girls look at my powers and all they see is a giant spider in human skin. Girls look at me and see a talking bird. Nothing I do is going to help me find a girlfriend." By this point Kyoka couldn't contain her laughter anymore. "I'll kill yours if you kill mine," Izuku declares. "Deal, but only if we kill the sun first," Fumikage replies. "Why the sun?" "It annoys me." "Fine, but the moon goes next." "Why the moon?" "It mocks me by being out of my reach forever." "Deal." "You hear that, Salvation, your days are numbered." This discussion gets disrupted by the classroom door opening to reveal a giant caterpillar. "Giant caterpillar?" one of the female students yelled. "I'm your teacher," Shota Izawa the caterpillar says. "Talking caterpillar," the same female yells. A second glance later, and they realized that it was a sleeping bag, and the face staring at them looked completely unamused. "Caterpillars don't talk, you people aren't very rational," Shota says as he stands up and unzips the bag. "Put on your gym clothes and meet me outside, we're taking a let's call it a pre-test." "But what about the opening ceremonies?" Achako asks. "We don't have time to waste on frivolous things like opening ceremonies. As students in the hero course, you only have 3 years to learn how to save lives. We're going to push you to your limits and then make you shatter those limits. This is plus ultra," Izawa states. 8 minutes later. "It took 8 minutes for you guys to get out here, we'll get that down to 4 before the weekends. Anyways, we're going to do a little test. As kids you all had to do standard exercises such as the ball throw and 50-meter dash. But the government made you do it without your quirks to keep up the illusion that all men are created equal by not letting people with power excel. Maybe one day the Ministry of Education will teach Midoriya, how far could you throw in elementary school?" Izawa asks. Izuku takes a few seconds to remember the answers. 171 meters, they made me hold back because my strength was always active. "Good, now take this ball, stand in the circle, and throw it. Don't hold back this time," Izawa instructs as he tosses the ball at Izuku. "And this time, do it without shattering your arm." "That was a one-time thing, I didn't have time to regulate the power flow because it was about to kill Achako," Izuku claims as One for All's green energy and his blue electricity dances across his arm. This is how Izuku plans to hide one for all, making it appear that the green energy is actually a unique type of electricity. This will theoretically make people less suspicious when Izuku stops using the blue electricity altogether. Izuku launches the ball into the sky, creating a shockwave that kicks up a cloud of dust. The other students are nearly knocked off their feet and Kitsuki is pissed off. Bastard thinks he can be better than me, I'll just triple his score. The smoke clears and Aizawa is seen holding up the device that clearly displays 100,900 meters. What, a vertically challenged boy screams, how are we supposed to beat that? If you think that is bad, just wait until you see my grip strength. Izuku smirks at the boy before his spider sense goes off. We get to use our quirks as much as we want, this'll be fun, the girl with pink skin says cheerfully. Fun you say, the hero course isn't about fun, so let's make this less fun, and games. New rule. The student who comes in last place during these 8 tests will be judged as a hopeless case with 0 potential. And expelled from the hero course immediately. Aizawa announces. That isn't fair, Ichako says, while silently hoping that she doesn't fail. Natural disasters, power-hungry villains, catastrophic events that wipe out entire cities, and people who won't let me nap aren't either. As heroes, it's our job to combat that unfairness. Aizawa retorts. The first test was the 50-meter dash. Iida was standing at the starting Tsuyu. Both of their quirks are perfect for this. Iida's quirk is speed-based, while Tsuyu's frog quirk lets her leap large distances in a single bound. Iida. 3.04 seconds. Tsuyu. 5.58 seconds. Watching that girl made me really uncomfortable. Izuku whispers to Kyoka. This causes Kyoka to snicker. Kyoka goes next and gets 6.09 seconds. Izuku stops paying attention until it's his and Kitsuki's turn. He puts both hands on the starting line and waits for the signal to go. Once that signal appears, Izuku sprints off, leaving a footprint in the starting line, while Kitsuki uses explosions to create an afterburner. Izuku. 1.04 seconds. Kitsuki. 4.13 seconds. Kitsuki looks like he's about to explode. That shitty Deku keeps getting in my way, I'll just show him that he'll always be under me, just a pebble to be stepped on. The grip strength test is next, and only 2 people really stood out. Shoji Mizo and his quirk. Dupli arms, gaining a score of 540.0 kilograms by using his 6 arms to squeeze the device. Izuku decides to go all out and ends up crushing the device with his left hand. Aizawa just sighs, already regretting that he told Izuku not to hold back. Kyoka uses her earphone jacks to squeeze the device, getting a decent score of 150.5 kilograms. The rest of the tests are dominated by Izuku: sit-ups, distance run, standing long jump, repeated side steps, and even the seated toe touch. You're very flexible. Ichako says, causing Kyoka to chuckle and Izuku to blush. Alright, breaking everything down would take too long, so I'll just post the entire list. Aizawa announces. Izuku Midoriya. Momo. Shoto Todoroki. Iida Tenya. Kitsuki Bakugo. Many names later. 20. Minoru Mineta. Mineta collapses to the ground, wailing about how he didn't even get to see a pair of boobies. By the way, nobody is expelled. That whole expulsion thing was a logical ruse to make you bring out the upper limits of your quirks. Aizawa says with the biggest shit-eating grin Izuku had ever seen. The entire class except for Momo, Kitsuki, Shoto, and Izuku breathes a sigh of relief. On the way home. If he was lying this entire time, why did my spider sense tell me there was danger? Izuku thinks as he walks towards the gates. Wait up. Iida says as he slides to a stop. Izuku's expression darkens as he remembers what this guy was like during the entrance exam. What do you want? Izuku utters. I wanted to apologize for what I said during the entrance exams. I had no right to assume that you were a slacker or trying to sabotage Ichako. Iida said while bending at a 90 degrees angle. I accept your apology. Izuku walks away before being called to once again. How are you getting home? Kyoka asks after catching up to him, Ichako a couple seconds behind her. Web swinging, now that we're officially enrolled in a hero school, we are considered heroes in training. This means that, as long as we have our school ID on us, we're allowed to publicly use our quirks, as long as we don't fight villains or hurt people. When we get our licensees, we'll be able to fight villains whenever we find them. Izuku answers. That's cool, I have to catch a train to get home, Kyoka replies, prompting Ichako to say the same thing. Rush hour starts soon, that train will be packed, Izuku speaks before making a decision. Both of you, hop on, I'll swing you home in half the time. How would you carry the 2 of us? We're about the same height and you're barely taller than us. Kyoka questions. This causes Izuku to blush, since he's about to reveal a secret not even his mom knows about. I can stick you to any part of my body and support your body weight thanks to my quirk. I call hanging from his back. Ochako leaps onto Izuku's back and immediately sticks. A free ride isn't something she's willing to pass up and she trusts Izuku to keep her safe. Where will I stick? Kyoka ponders before a smirk appears on her face. She grabs Izuku's arm and puts it behind her thighs before pushing herself up against his chest. Izuku immediately turns into a blushing, stuttering mess. Lucky salvation whispers, which is mirrored by Mineta. Unknown to Izuku, this response sealed his fate. Shut up, pervert. Izuku yells as he shoots a web shot at Mineta's mouth before jumping into the air and attaching his web to a building. He swings forward and releases the web. He lets them fall for a couple seconds before swinging with another web to pick up speed. Warn me next time. Kyoka shrieks as Izuku flips in midair. What's wrong? Can't handle a little freefall? Izuku asks with a huge smile on his lips. Where? Ochako screams before telling Izuku to make a left, then a right. 10 minutes later, Ochako is above her apartment building and tells Izuku to let her fall. Are you crazy? We're 50 feet in the air. Izuku yelled before Ochako revealed that she can make herself float before impacting the ground. Fine, but you better land without hurting yourself. Izuku relents as Ochako jumps off of his back. My house isn't too far from here, Kyoka informs Izuku as he shoots another web. Izuku gets a devious smile on his face as he lets go of his web and pretends to faint. Izuku, what's wrong? Wake up. Kyoka panics as the ground gets closer and closer. But Shota is Awa. A logical ruse? That doesn't sound like the guy who expelled an entire class on day 1. All Might says. That class had zero potential as heroes, so I cut them loose. Mineta has potential, a small amount, but potential nonetheless. It'd be cruel to let a kid pursue a dream he has no hope of achieving. Azawa retorts before yawning and crawling back into his sleeping bag. I blame you for this present, Mick. I can't believe you managed to push me into teaching again. Azawa thinks as he closes his eyes. I guess I better go review my lesson plans for tomorrow. All Might sighs before walking up to his office. Free-falling pair. Wake up. Kyoka screams before shoving an earphone jack into his head and releasing a small sound wave. This causes Izuku's eyes to snap open and he shoots a web to pull them over to a roof. Don't ever scare me like that again, Kyoka demands before Izuku drops to his knees and starts vomiting up lunch and pieces of salvation. There's even a piece of him stuck in the earphone jack. Ah, she hit my brain. Salvation screams as he recalls the pieces that were removed. The individual pieces begin to wriggle around before jumping towards each other. The one on Kyoka's ear draws blood before rejoining the rest and forming a blob with splotches of purple. That blob returns to Izuku's body to rejoin the rest of itself. Something doesn't feel right, Salvation uttered as the blob mingled with the rest of Salvation. You're overreacting, Izuku thinks as he finishes vomiting. What was that? Kyoka asks, worrying that she hurt her new friend. My symbiote has a huge weakness to sound attacks, since it's inside of me at all times I take damage whenever Salvation begins to violently wriggle around from sound. Izuku explains as he returns to his feet. This is why he never listens to dubstep at max volume. You should have told me that, I wouldn't have used it if I knew it would do damage. Kyoka says while Izuku regains his balance. He picks Kyoka up and swings her home. They land right next to her window and Izuku pulls it open to slide her in. Izuku looks around to see a lot of dark colors and music-related items. You really like music, don't you? Izuku says as he spots her musical instruments. Yeah, it's a family thing, Kyoka says as she twirls her earphone jacks around her finger. Are you any good with that guitar? Izuku questions. Yes, I've been practicing since I was a little girl. What about you, any musical talents? Kyoka asks her own question. No, but I can dance. Izuku replies, revealing a secret that only his mom knew. He looks over to his left and sees a book with sheet music sticking out of it. What's that book? Izuku queried. Oh, that's my song book. I've been working on some original music. I could play something. I mean, if you want me to, you probably need to get a Kyoka offer. Sure, just let me tell my mom I'll be home later than we expected. Izuku says as he texts his mom. While Izuku does this, Kyoka decides to play the bass instead of the drums. You so much as roll your eyes or laugh, and I swear I'll murder you, Kyoka declares as she pulls him into her room. Izuku's blush appears in full force. I won't, I promise. Kyoka begins to play her guitar. I will laugh, mother. What? Izuku thinks. Would you care to explain why you called Kyoka your mother? Izuku whispers as soon as he gets home. She is Mom. Salvation responds. I got that, but was she your mother? Izuku starts to lose his patience. When your quirk activation gave birth to me, I only had the DNA of you in my system. You named me and became my father figure, the person I looked up to. But then the incident yesterday happened and I assimilated the blood of mom into my brain. Her DNA is swimming through my body and altering me, I can see it. My body is gaining the color purple, the color of Kyoko. Now that I have the DNA and traits of two people, I think it's only right that they be considered my parents. Salvation answers. Alright, but you better not start calling her mother every time we talk about her or see her. It's weird. Izuku responds. I make no promises. UA the next day. Izuku walked into class with his eyes firmly planted on the ground. He's limping to his seat and barely manages to mutter a half-hearted hello to the people he passes by. Izuku plops down onto his seat next to Fumikage Tokoyami and Kyoka Jiro. What happened to you? Kyoko asks immediately. The bird snagged my web line in the middle of my trip to school. I fell 5 stories and smacked into a concrete building. My spider sense never even went off once. And unfortunately, the bird was completely unharmed somehow. Birds are fucking evil. Izuku responds before groaning in pain. Should I be offended? Fumikage ponders. After all, he does have a bird head. Also, we need to talk once class ends, Izuku tells Kyoka, causing an almost unnoticeable blush spread across her cheeks. Suddenly, the door bursts open. I am here, All Might rushes in coming through the door like a normal person. The class goes wild and starts shouting all at once, most voices getting lost in all the noise, only 2 voices are understandable. That's All Might. Mineta yells. That's his golden age costume. One of the other students yells. Settle down, settle down. Today we're doing some basic hero training and battleground beta. Put on the hero gear you requested and meet me there. I'll explain today's lesson after your suit up. All Might gestures top the wall with boxes labeled 1 to 20, then sprints away. After the suit up. Oh yeah, this is exactly what I needed. Izuku thinks as he examines his skin-tight hero suit. It has a red spider emblem on the chest and back. The red on his shoulders trail down to his stomach, connecting to each other. The eyes on the mask are white with a red outline. Everything else is black. How do you put that on if it's skin tight? Kirishima questions. The emblem on my chest has 2 buttons, if I push them simultaneously the suit will loosen up and let me slip in, press them again, and the suit tightens around the body just enough to be tight without cutting off blood circulation. Izuku explains before sliding his mask onto his head. This is somehow accomplished despite the giant bush that Izuku calls hair. He squints his eyes and is pleased to see that the mask's eyes mirrored that. Izuku walks into the room with the rest of Class 1A and immediately spots Fumikage. He's kind of hard to miss. Your hero costume is kind of underwhelming. Are you trying to cosplay as Cloak? Fumikage turns around and responds, no, this cloak is meant to keep me in darkness at all times and boost the power of Dark Shadow. It also allows me to hide these. He reaches into the cloak to pull out a flash grenade and a high-power flashlight. So, what's with the body stocking? Fumikage asks his own question. If my clothing was too thick I wouldn't be able to stick to walls very well. This costume also reduces the chances that my body will snag onto something when I'm swinging. Izuku replies. You're naked under that suit? Fumikage asks. I'm wearing underwear. Is the suit fireproof? No, it's insulated against electricity though. And the mask blocks out sound past a certain volume. What happens if Bakugo blows it up? You don't want to see what happens. I'm scared now, Fumikage shudders. You should be, your nightmares will have nightmares. Izuku says in an eerie tone. Eerie tones are my shtick, get your own, Fumikage says in an eerie tone, do that again and you'll get attacked by another bird tonight. Fine, I'll find something else. And when I do, it'll shock you, Izuku declares, getting the attention of Kaminari. Electricity puns are my thing, fuck off. Fine, they'll leave you frozen in awe. Izuku amends. You can fuck right off, Todoroki states in a cold tone. They'll have you stuck to your seats. Izuku says. Nobody says anything. Well, now that that's over, All Might catches the class's attention. Allow me to tell you what is going on. Today, you'll be learning indoor combat tactics in the best way possible. During the heat of battle. Most of the fights you see on TV happen outdoors, but the statistics show that most crimes happen indoors. I'm talking about bank robbing, drug dealing, weapon smuggling, and slave trading. To emulate this situation, UA has crafted paper match bombs for us to use. There will be 2 people defending the bomb as villains and 2 people attempting to retrieve the bomb or capture the villains with capture tape. How will teams be decided? How badly can I hurt my opponents? Will there be a bathroom break? Are you threatening expulsion like Mr. Izawa? Hold on, my quirk isn't super hearing. Teams will be decided by drawing lots. One by one, every student grabs a ball with a letter on it. The final teams are Izuku Midoriya and Kyoka Jiro, all range fighters. Ichako Uraraka and Lita Tenya ambush specialists. Lenora Mineta and Toru Hagakure, stealth and capture. Bitsuki Bakugo and Momo Yaoi Rozu, unrelenting force and unpredictability. Enki Kaminari and Ijiro Kirishima area of effect and tank. Yumikage Tokoyami and Mizo Shoji all-range fighters. Shodo Todoroki and Koji Koda, unrelenting force and unpredictability. Yuga Aoyama and Mina Ishido, long-range specialists. Panta Siro and Rikito Sato, capture specialist and tank. Masahiro Jiro and Tsuyu Asui, martial arts and maneuverability. Alright, the heroes are Team D and the villains are Team A. All Might announces. He explains that the villains get 5 minutes to set up and Team A rushes into the building with their bomb. I guess I will shatter his illusion sooner than I thought. Izuku thinks. Time to crush him and show Deku that he is below me and always will be Kitsuki. What's the plan? Kyoka asks as they set their bomb in a room on the 5th floor. Bitsuki will immediately search for me and Momo looks like the type to not abandon a teammate, so I'll block off 2 of 3 entrances to this floor with rubble and meet them on the 2nd. This way I'll be able to cut loose without worrying about collapsing the floor near our bomb. Izuku says. What should I do? Kyoka asks. I'll sound throughout the building at irregular intervals to throw off Momo's concentration. That should stop her from creating her bigger weapons that take a lot of time and thought to create. I'm counting on you, I can't take a point-blank cannonball to the chest. Izuku explains. You're weak to sound though. Kyoka states, worried about hurting him again. My mask nullifies sound past a certain volume, don't worry, I'll be fine. Izuku replies before smirking and sprinting down the halls. Kyoka inserts her earphone jacks into the ground and waits for the match to start. Izuku goes to the closest stairwell and attaches 2 webs to the ceiling. Yanking his arms down, the roof of the building collapses, blocking off that stairwell completely. Next, he goes to the 2nd closest stairwell and blocks that off too. The furthest entrance is the only one left and that's on the other side of the building. Izuku climbs out of the window in the stairwell and travels to the 2nd floor, which only has 2 sets of stairs that are across from each other. Izuku lays on the ceiling and waits for the heroes to arrive. Start, All Might screams. Bakugo, wait, we still need to plan our attack. Momo yells, chasing down the blonde bullet running through the halls. Find the enemy, beat him senseless. Kitsuki replies as he dashes through the hall. The bomb should be our #1 priority. Momo urges. Then you can secure it, Kitsuki sneers. This is supposed to be a team exercise. Momo yells. The best doesn't need a team. You'll just slow me down. Kitsuki shouts as he runs up the stairwell to the 2nd floor. Target incoming, Kyoka announces through her earpiece. Fire when ready. As soon as Kitsuki reaches the final step, Izuku rapidly fires webs at him, pinning him to the floor. With the class. And Bakugo is down, Ichako says. Kind of disappointing that they lost so easily, Tsuyu says. This is the fate of everyone that rushes into the battle alone and unprepared. Fumikage declares. Momo is still there, don't count her out yet, Mizo reminds everyone. Back to the fight. Momo rushes up the stairs with a metal shield on her left arm and right arm. She blocks the barrage of web shots and tosses the shield at Izuku. Izuku dodges and bounces at Momo, preparing to smash. Smash! He shouts as he closes in, right fist about to swing, but his spider sense goes off at the last second and a metal pole shoots out of Momo's arm. Izuku gets smacked out of the air and starts sliding backwards on his back. I can't believe I got hit by something so simple. Izuku groans as he flips upright to see Momo's shirt open wider and chest glowing blue. Kyoka assist. He shouts into the earpiece. A grating sound reverberates throughout the building, disorienting Momo, and the glowing stops. Izuku sprints at Momo before she can regain her focus and slides between her legs while attaching a web string to her face. He yanks on it, sending Momo to the floor and giving him and a camera a clear view up her skirt. Not the day. Izuku shoots a web to block the camera from seeing anything else and shocks it until it shorts out to get rid of the stored image. Momo creates another shield and tosses it at Izuku, hoping to catch him off guard. He slams it into Momo's back before covering her with his webbing and sticking her to the floor. Yada, I won, Izuku said before the building got rocked by an explosion. Dad, dodge. Deku, take me seriously. Izuku turns around to see a giant wave of fire barreling towards him and Momo. God damn it, Bakugo, friendly fire, Izuku yells. Green electricity arcs throughout Izuku's arms. I like these hands, Izuku thinks as he slams his hands together. The shockwave halts the fire in its tracks. Return to sender, Izuku shouts as he punches the air to completely redirect the flames. The reason Izuku didn't lead with that is because it would have created a path through the flames, but the flames would travel on the walls to reach the webs behind him. and we all know why that's a bad thing. Not good enough. Katsuki screams as he charges at Deku. How long until I can use my hands again? Izuku asks Salvation. Not too long, hostile inbound Salvation says as Izuku looks up. Not a problem, Izuku thinks, as his spin kicks Katsuki's chin. I can beat him without my hands. Katsuki responds with a strong uppercut and explosion combo that lifts Izuku off the ground. Izuku backflips away. Why are you backflipping? To gain some distance. You can run. Izuku stops moving and shoots a web at the wall. He yanks that chunk of the wall off and starts swinging the rock around. After the third spin, Izuku launches it at Katsuki. Predictably, Katsuki blows it up, creating a smokescreen. Stop toying with me. He shouts into the smoke. You say that a lot, Izuku says as he rockets through the smoke, feet first. His right foot hits Katsuki's chest first and is closely followed by the left. Then the right foot again, then left, right next. Each kick sends them further and further from their original starting place. The final kick is delivered and moments later, Bakugo finds his bearings. Katsuki uses an explosion to fly over Deku and punch him in the back before sweeping Deku's leg from under him. I'll stop saying it when it stops being the truth. You can bench press my dad's car, but I barely felt those kicks. Katsuki yells as he grabs Deku's leg and slams him into the wall. Izuku doesn't get up in time to prevent Katsuki from kicking him in the side and setting off an explosion that tosses Izuku into the wall, creating a crater. Salvation's mask begins to cover half of Izuku's mask. We told you we would shatter your illusions. Izuku and Salvation yell as they peel themselves out of the wall and uppercut him with their elbow. You still believe that nobody can be your equal? Well, this class is full of people who can rival and even surpass you, Izuku shouts as he slams Bakugo into the ground and kicks Katsuki in the chest. You don't even try to improve yourself anymore. You've had your quirk for 11 years, yet all you can do is shoot bigger explosions and fly in short bursts. What happens when you need to attack a villain who has a hostage? Are you going to blow them up too? You're so complacent with where you are, yet you dare to claim that you'll surpass everyone and become number one. Izuku headbutts Katsuki, breaking his nose. Don't insult us like that. You're a goddamn hypocritical bastard. Take me seriously. Why should I take you seriously when you won't extend the same courtesy? We all made it here, we're all training, improving, and trying our best to be heroes that the world can look up to. Deku shoots electric webs at Katsuki's left arm to paralyze it, but you're not interested in any of that. All you want to do is use your quirk to hurt people. Never even attempting to find ways to use it for rescuing civilians or helping them with daily problems. We won't put up with that. Izuku slams Katsuki's head into a wall, and Salvation starts whispering, if you insist on insulting all of our efforts, we'll destroy you. Is that clear? These words manage to break their way into the back of Katsuki's mind. Are they right? Is that true? Have I really become stagnant with my skills? Do I even deserve to be a hero? Katsuki resolves to worry about this after he finishes the fight. Katsuki explodes. Shut up. I am the best. He grabs Izuku's hand and applies pressure to the area between the thumb and index finger. This loosens Izuku's grip enough for Katsuki to rip Izuku's hand off of his face. And it's time I show you why. Katsuki punches Izuku back to where Momo was stuck and points his right fist at him. The grenade-shaped bracers on my arms aren't just for show, they've been storing the sweat I don't use up in my explosions. Now, I'll show you the results. Enjoy my Big Bang Blast. Izuku attaches a web to the bracers and is barely able to change where it was aiming. Now, instead of being a headshot, it was a chest shot. The explosion rockets towards him, creating a ball of fire and tearing up the ground. This also results in Momo being in the line of fire again. Dang it, friendly fire again. Izuku is forced to take the explosion head on or risk Momo getting blown to pieces, or is he? The smoke quickly clears, revealing Izuku in his damaged state. His mask has been completely blown off along with the rest of his suit's front and destroyed Izuku's underwear. His face is fine, while his chest is heavily burned. What was that? Kyoka shouts through the earpiece. Kyoka had been listening to the entire conversation and had decided to let them argue and fight without her help. This was personal, a fated battle between rivals. She thought it rocked. Bakugo put his ally in danger, so I couldn't dodge it or else Momo would die. Izuku says before falling backwards. Bakugo rushes towards him. Get up, Deku, it can't end like this. Stop screwing around. This isn't a real win for me unless you try harder. You never used that green lightning. You could have dodged that attack. Katsuki yells. No, I couldn't. Momo was in danger. Izuku coughs up blood before closing his eyes and whispering at a volume only Katsuki was close enough to hear. You shouldn't have wasted so much time fighting the bad guy. Time's up. The villain team wins All Might over the paw. Kyoka leaves her bomb behind and meets everyone on the second floor. She's shocked to see the craters in the wall, missing chunks of wall, giant trench in the floor, and the blood on the floor. Is anyone else concerned by the fact that Izuku has no genitals? She asks, as soon as she sees Izuku on the ground. He does, his symbiote retracts them to the inside of his body whenever the situation calls for it. Bakugo mutters. You sound depressed. Momo says from her position on the floor. I'm not depressed, I just feel disappointed and hollow. I know Izuku could have stopped that last attack and kept fighting. He chose to stop, he chose to lose. Why? Heroes are supposed to win no matter what happens. Tears begin to leak from Kitsuki's eyes and he immediately wipes them away. Why did you give up? Am I not even worth beating? All Might arrives at the second floor to pick up Midoriya and carry him to the recovery girl. You should come too, young Bakugo, your nose is bleeding. Recovery girl's office. The walk to recovery girl's office was a silent one outside. All Might too focused on his successor and Bakugo too focused on his hollow victory. But on the inside. You let him win, why? We both know I took the brunt of the attack at the last minute. Salvation asked, confused about why he chose to lose when winning was an enhanced elbow strike away. I told him I would shatter his illusions, so I decided to shake the foundation of his beliefs. Heroes are supposed to beat the villain to win. If that scenario was real, the bomb would have been used to kill people. The bomb that Bakugo was supposed to retrieve would have been taken away and used to wipe out everyone nearby. He lost because he pursued the villain instead of the weapon, and he knows that. To make matters even worse for him, he knows I didn't use all of my abilities. In his mind, that is the worst blow to his pride, beating someone because they held back. The second worst blow comes from the fact he believes he almost killed me and Momo. Heroes aren't supposed to kill anyone, and he almost killed 2 heroes in training. That blood was really convincing, by the way. How did you get it? Izuku replies. I pulled it out of your numb hand and spat it out of your mouth when you made that fake cough. Salvation responded, satisfied that his question was answered. Oh my goodness, what happened to him? Recovery girl screams. A training accident. All Might responds that young Bakugo here broke his nose in combat as well. I swear you people have no regard for safety. It looks like Izuku was hit with a bomb. He'll be here for a while. Recovery girl sighs, making Bakugo flinch. Recovery girl kisses Bakugo's head to fix his broken nose and sends him back to class. You can leave too, All Might, you have a class to teach. Once All Might leaves, Recovery girl waits a few moments before saying, unlike those two, I know how to tell when someone is actually unconscious. You can stop pretending. Forcing Izuku to sit up with a sheepish smile. What gave me away? He asks for just in case he needs to fake unconsciousness again later. Your shoulders were tensed up, she replies before asking why he pretended to be knocked out. I was teaching that other guy who walked in a lesson. Izuku replies. Anyways, you don't need to stay here, your burns are already healing thanks to your symbiote. Recovery girl replies. I know I can heal myself, but I was hoping you could fix my hands while I was here. Izuku says while lifting up his arms to show her his hands, which he still can't move. How did you go and do something like that? Recovery girl asks as she examines the badly damaged and bleeding palms of his hands. I clapped my hands while using one for all. This was actually better than what I was expecting. I half expected to blow the skin off of them completely. Recovery girl starts smacking him with her cane. Idiot, I can't believe you did that while you thought it'd blow your skin off. Of all the stupid, reckless things you've done this year, this is the stupidest and most reckless one of all. Ouch, ouch, I'm sorry, okay. I was more focused on stopping my classmate from burning alive. Izuku shouts as his shoulder gets smacked by the cane multiple times. This causes Recovery girl to sigh and kiss Izuku's palms. You're just like Toshinori, heroic but moronic. You better stay here and rest, those kisses should be knocking you out in a couple seconds. Izuku immediately passes out. I guess you had less stamina than I thought, Recovery girl says as she picks up Izuku and puts him on the couch. Who knew that a woman that old could be so strong? She silently leaves the room to go grab his clothes. Back with Bakugo. All you want to do is use your quirk to hurt people. Bakugo remembers those words as the image of Izuku spitting blood pops into his head. I went too far, I nearly killed the two of them. I let my temper get out of control again. You don't even try to improve yourself anymore, you've had your quirk for 11 years, yet all you can do is shoot bigger explosions and fly in short bursts. He was right, I haven't been using my quirk as well as I should be able to. I can't even recreate that attack without my bracers. I need to find a way to be more versatile. What happens when you need to attack a villain who has a hostage? I don't know, Bakugo sighs, he never really thought about it. Today, let's consider our fight unfinished. But one day I'll come back ready to wipe the floor with that oversized head of yours. This is the day Bakugo decided that change was necessary. After waking up in the nurse's office, Izuku returned to class and received praise from his classmates. And he immediately turned shy. It was nothing really. Nothing. You almost soloed Momo and went blow for blow with Bakugo. Kirishima says. He still lost and got his clothes blown to pieces. Toru states. Yumikid shudders in the background. That green thing was cool, he was funny too. Echako says after pushing her way through the slowly growing crowd. The mask comes back. Thank you, Dad doesn't appreciate my humor. Salvation says. The mask leaves. Izuku's eyes widen. Fuck, he thinks. Why is he calling you Dad? Kyoka asks while pushing her way through the crowd. That's pretty weird, Sayu says bluntly. Izuku flinched as soon as she hopped into the circle. He calls me Dad because part of his DNA comes from me, just like a father-son relationship. Izuku sighs, realizing his slip-up and already knowing the follow-up question. He was hoping to tell her this in private, but keeping it a secret from the rest of the class isn't an option anymore. The last thing Izuku wants is for people to start forming their own theories about who Salvation's mommy is. Who's the mom? Kyoka asks. Izuku says weakly. This one word instantly silences the entire class. Aizawa-sensei stops snoring in his sleep, as if even he knows that shit just went down. How am I the mother? Kyoka shouts. Izuku can't tell if the redness on her face is from anger or embarrassment. When you slammed your earphone jack into my head, you pulled out a piece of Salvation's brain and it got embedded within the jack. When Salvation recalled the pieces of himself that I vomited out, his brain piece drew blood and dragged it to the rest of the symbiote. This caused Salvation to begin undergoing a mutation. Once your DNA was assimilated, Salvation decided that we were his parents now. Izuku answers. Does that mean you're carrying my baby? Kyoka smirks. Izuku looks at her face and she mouths we aren't done with this to him. This sends Kaminari, Kirishima and Mina into a giggle fit. Up yours, Pichu, Izuku shouts. The itsy bitsy spider can bite, Kirishima jokes. Anybody who makes another spider joke will be on the receiving end of my venom. Izuku spits a clear colorless liquid at the floor to prove his threat is legitimate. This liquid is way too thick to be regular spit. You can hear the venom in his voice, Mina whispers to Toru, the invisible girl. Since when could you do that? Kyoka asks, he never told her about that ability. I could always do it, my powers are spider-based. The venom sacs are stored in my throat and I can either spray it or use it to coat my teeth. That's why I have the option to inject. But biting people to inject the venom is gross. I always end up with a bad taste in my mouth that can't be fixed with toothpaste and mouthwash. I find that spitting venom is much better and safer. The venom loses most of its punch after coming into prolonged contact with the chemicals in the polluted city air. Izuku explains after wiping the excess venom dripping down his chin onto his sleeves. Okay, but that doesn't explain why you have no genitals, Mizo Shoji says. The mask comes back. Oh, I can answer that. Salvation silently begs Izuku to let him explain this one. Fine, Izuku replies. Due to my home within Dad's body, I'm allowed to do all sorts of things to his body. So, one day I asked my dad a question. Why do men have a giant weak spot between their legs like they're a video game boss monster? Izuku's only idea was that it was to even up the playing field and prevent them from being completely unstoppable at some point in the future. I said fuck that and rearranged Izuku's lower body to give me the power to retract his genitalia whenever the situation is dangerous. Salvation explains. That's overpowered, Hantasiro whines you're immune to dick punches. Jiro Kirishima looks away and starts whistling. That's almost as manly as my technique. He thinks to himself. Anyways, your powers are so cool. You were all like whip. And Bakugo was all like boom kaboom. Toru interrupts, eager to change the topic. Where is Bakugo anyway? I haven't seen him at all since I left Recovery Girl, Izuku asks. He's been in the gym training ever since class ended, Kaminari answers after a moment of silence. The only reply that Izuku can think of is good. This signals the end of the conversation and the class becomes empty. Izuku, Echako, and Kyoka reach the gate and the girls prepare to return to their previous positions on Izuku's body. I'm telling you this right now, I'm almost out of web fluid and my spinnerets are starting to burn. So, if blood starts leaking out of my wrist at some point or the webbing falls short of the next building, don't panic. Izuku warms, the last thing he wants is to hear them screaming into his ear. Sure, it won't hurt him, but who likes being screamed at? And just like Izuku said, blood began leaking from his wrist halfway to Echako's house. Echako gets home and Izuku begins swinging to Kyoka's house. His web barely misses a building once they reach Kyoka's block. What do we do? Kyoka asks as they get closer to the black pavement. We could just land, falling 5 stories wouldn't do any damage to me. Izuku suggests. But what about me? My body probably couldn't handle the force created by impacting the ground, Kyoka says. Oh yeah. I got this, Salvation sighs as he shoots green and purple tendrils out of Izuku's arms and attaches them to a building. Thanks Salvation, Kyoka says as they land in front of her house. The driveway is empty, so Izuku sighs in relief. Her parents aren't home. You're welcome, Salvation says, but the mask hadn't formed. She can't hear you. Yes, I can. Wait, what? Izuku screams. It's muffled, but I can definitely hear him. How? My best guess is that my hearing is so good that I can hear him inside of your body. These earphone jacks are for more than attacking. Kyoka explains. This makes sense to Izuku. Sound is created by a bunch of vibrations traveling through the air, earth, and water. Anyone with super hearing could feasibly hear Salvation. Especially since Salvation is legitimately speaking, therefore causing vibrations, not doing some weird type of psychic communication. What makes this even more sensible to Izuku is what happened on the first day. The class was full of loud, rambunctious teens, yet Kyoka still heard him lightly tap the window. From the opposite wall. By Kyoka! Izuku exclaims as his spider sense goes crazy. He hops onto a building's wall and runs away. The reason for this is made evident when a purple car pulls up in the driveway moments later. The car door opens and Kyoka is hit by a wave of music. Hey Dad, how was work? Kyoka asks. It was great, I'm being paid to work on a video game soundtrack. Her dad says with a grin that could light a dark abyss. The next day. What's going on? Izuku asks as he turns a corner and sees all of his classmates filling the corridor that contains the girls' locker room and nothing else. Itsuki answers the question first and Kyoka hears a bunch of heavy breathing coming from their locker room. My perverted senses are tingling, let's go Kitsuki. Izuku gets a dangerous glint in his eyes and he grabs Kitsuki before wall crawling up to the front. They may have hated each other for most of middle school, but one thing made them allies more often than sworn enemies. Their deep hatred for perverts. It all started when they were kids. A grown man had accidentally brushed his hand against Inko's butt several times and pinched it twice. This led to Inko becoming upset and the boys to pure rage. In the span of 3 minutes, the man had a black eye and a badly damaged crotch. Throughout middle school they would rehabilitate any pervert that got too horny for their own good. I'm not going in there, Toru whimpers. The sound had devolved into animalistic snarls. Neither did all of the other girls. We got this, Kitsuki growls. Momo, once we go to barricade the floor behind us please. You plan to enter the girls' locker room, that's against the rules. Tenyu gasps, hands chopping air. Screw the rules, that creature is making them uncomfortable about going into the one place nobody should fear. I'm going to fix that. Izuku snarls. Green electricity starts to spark across his knuckles. Go get it, Tiger, Kyoka says, slowly backing away from the door so that Mono can quickly block it off. Yeah, you got this, Mina claims after seeing the bloodlust and rage in their eyes. Izuku leads the charge, Kitsuki following behind screaming die fucker. Momo shuts the door behind them immediately and presses her body weight against it. 50 seconds of no sound passes by eerily. Class 1A waits, the air becoming thick with tension. Then they hear a shrill scream, followed by a roar of primal fury from Kitsuki and a yell from Izuku. The sounds of metal clanging, wood cracking, and glass shattering began to ravage the lockers, along with several thundering explosions, courtesy of one pissed-off Kitsuki. Die. 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 Put down the bras right now. Never, they're my spoils of war. Your hands are about to become a spoil of war. Your urn will be my spoil of war. You're gonna kill me. That's the fucking point. Hey, bro code violation. Screw the bro code, you broke the decent human being code. The horrifying scream decimated the ears of Class 1A, petrifying them with the agony the beast had to experience. Izuku roars as he throws the pervert through the locker room door. The hinges literally explode from the force. Jiro barely has time to duck under the door. The perpetrator was Mineta. His twitching and burned form is on display for all to see. Both of his hands stuck together on his pants by electric webs. His face is bruised and bloody, 2 purple balls missing from his head. Overall he looked almost dead. Kitsuki walks through the entrance with a satisfied grin on his face. Izawa walks into the hallway to investigate the noise, sees what happened, and promptly turns around to go find Recovery Girl. He knows better than to get in the way of divine retribution. Come on, the bell didn't even ring yet. Izawa sighs. He doesn't get paid enough for any of this. Exchanging anxious looks, the other girls ran inside, while Momo prevented the rest of the boys from entering the lockers. Eku? Ichako calls through the smoke. Christ, the place looked like a nuclear war zone, there's craters everywhere. Where are you? I'm here. His voice sounds weak and shaky, like he was knocking on death's door. When the girls finally found him, he was curled up in a ball, his eyes shut tight and hands firmly gripping his ears. "What's wrong?" Achako asks. Izuku points to the floor and they see the ground covered in bras and panties. "My spider sense has been blaring ever since I stepped into this room. It feels like my head is going to split open in here." "Oh," Kyoka says as she begins clearing the clothing off the floor. She doubts any of the girls will want to wear them again. Especially since some of the clothing articles were sitting in a pool of Izuku's venom. At least, she hoped that was venom. "You can open your eyes now." The first thing Izuku sees after opening his eyes is the amused grin on Kyoka's face. Class 1 went to class, well most of 1 went to class. Mineta went to the recovery girl in order to have his wounds treated. "Now that the commotion has ended, we have an assignment." As Awa pauses. Class 1 begins to feel nervous. Is this going to be another crazy test? You guys need to pick your class representative and deputy representative. Class 1 sighs in relief that this is just a normal school thing and not something crazy difficult. The silence is soon broken by a chorus of people screaming to let them do it. Azawa just groans as climbs back into his sleeping bag. Meanwhile, the sleeping entity living inside of Izuku is growing more and more restless. Eventually, the noise becomes too much for him to handle. The mask forms. "Shut the fuck up." Salvation shouts before one of his abilities manifests. A sonic shriek diagonally tears through the classroom. This sends most of Class 1 to the ground, the only exceptions being Mizo Shoji. He made his ears vanish as soon as he heard the shriek start, and Izuku himself. What the fuck was that? Izuku is dumbfounded at this random ability. "I have no idea, but more importantly, why are heroes in training over here yelling like children?" Salvation is seething at this point. He takes his first nap in 4 years and somebody decides to wake him up. They want to be class rep or deputy rep. And before you ask, these positions are important because the class 1 rep gets to speak at the sports festival and gain a fanbase sooner than their peers in class 1A and B. Both position holders have more opportunities to interact with the pros. In summary, they're more likely to be famous heroes. All Might being one of few exceptions to this, as he never attempted to be a representative. Izuku calmly explains. "Okay, that makes a little sense, but there has to be a better way to go about this." Salvation responds. "Preferably a way that doesn't wake him up again." "As a matter of fact, there is a better way. I suggest that we do this the best way. The democratic way. We shall have an election. Due to the fact that we barely know each other, whoever garners multiple votes has made the biggest impact on their peers and is obviously the best choice to lead us." Iida Tenyu declares, swiping the air to punctuate each sentence. This also has the side effect of stopping Asui from rebuking the idea. Azawa chimes in, "I don't care how it's done. It just needs to be done in the next 6 minutes. I need to fill out the paperwork and you guys need to head over to the support hero department in order to tell them what you need." This catches Izuku's interest. He already has the blueprints for the tech he needs. He just couldn't actually make them because he lacks the resources necessary for them. Class 1 decides to hold an election and the results are quite shocking to some people. "They chose me to be the deputy representative. I hope I don't let them down." Momo thinks as she looks at the results board and sees her 3 votes. "I got 5 votes, how? I barely interact with 3 people and I didn't even vote for myself." Izuku thinks. "I got 0 votes." Kyoka, Fumikage, Achako, and Iida think to themselves. "Alright, you have your representatives, head to the support department and speak to the power loader. I have forms to fill out." Azawa grumbles the last part. Stupid papers ruining his naps. This is why he never wanted to teach in the first place. Azawa would spend the next 30 minutes alternating between signing forms and cursing President Mick. Support department. "So, you're Azawa's students." The power loader rubs his chin. The class is a lot bigger than he expected it to be. He's going to need a little bit of help here. He walks to a back door and opens it up. "May, front and center." He shouts into the brightly lit room full of students. A few moments later, a girl with yellow eyes that have crosshairs in them stumbles through the door. Izuku takes a cursory glance at her appearance and notices that she has a coat of dirt on her skin. Her hair has a nearly clear oil in it and she looks like she hasn't slept in a week. It's clear that she's either obsessed with her work or she's obsessed with avoiding self-care. "What do you want?" "I was building my babies." May asks. "You've been drafted into helping Class 1 create their support items. I'll help the people who have no idea what they need, you'll help the students who know exactly what they need." Power loader instructs before telling Class 1 to split into 2 groups. Izuku walks over to Mei Hatsune, along with Kyoka, Mizo, Mashirao, and Shoto. Momo speaks up. "My quirk doesn't require any support items, I can just make my own." This catches Izuku's interest. She has access to unlimited resources and items. He decides that he should really be careful around her. The last thing he needs is to have his webs and tech reverse engineered and used by someone else. Your teacher told me about you, he wants you to pay attention. Your quirk requires you to have an acute understanding of the inner mechanisms in the object you're creating. He figured that coming to a place where everyone has advanced engineering knowledge would help you. Power Loader replies. Shortly after this, the two groups walk into the support lab full of raw materials. Alright, tell me what babies you need. Mei asks while getting uncomfortably close to Izuku's face. Izuku pulls out a blueprint for the web bombs. A motion-sensitive grenade that releases synthetic web fluid to trap his foe. Nice baby, it's super detailed. Building it should be relatively easy. Mei snatches the blueprint out of his hands and scans the sheet, but there seems to be a part missing. Some type of canister that should be inserted right about here and here. She points to two half circles of empty space. Yeah, Izuku smirks, those parts are classified information that you aren't privy to at the moment. Maybe if you do a good job with what you got, I'll let you make more babies for me. Izuku and Mei get smacked in the back of the head by an irate Kyoka. Can we move this along? Kyoka yells at them. Sure, Mei replies before asking her what baby she needs. This process continues until all of them have spoken. Kyoka wants cubes with speakers on all four sides of them. The speakers have an adjustable volume setting and a frequency changer. This allows her to have even greater control over the intensity and pitch of her attacks. Mashira wants a bow staff that can be twisted apart into two Eskrima sticks, then put back together. With the ability to be collapsed into a pocket-sized cylinder. He also wants it to have an adjustable electric charge. Mizo needs nothing, he just didn't want to stay with a larger group. Shoto wants a wearable heat generator to speed up his defrosting after overusing the ice aspect of quirk in battle. Of Power Loader. Our loader is having much less success. The only student with an inkling of tech knowledge over here is the blonde guy with an explosive temper and the blonde one who fries whatever electronics are within 3 feet of his powers. Lunchtime. So, which one of you people voted for me? Izuku asks as he looks at the people who assembled at his table. Kyoka, Fumikage, Ichako, and Iida. Izuku isn't exactly fond of Iida's strictness, but Ichako seems to like him for some reason. Casting him out of the group would be rude at this point. So, Izuku decides to just grit his teeth and bear it for now. They all raise their hands. Me too, a familiar voice says from behind Izuku. No fucking way, Bakugo voted for me, Izuku thinks. That can't be possible, people don't change overnight, what is this? Bleach. Naruto. Dragon Ball Z. Really? You don't seem like the type of guy who would vote for anyone besides himself. Kyoka snorts. It'd be much more believable if you told her that Endeavor voted for All Might in a popularity poll. I don't give a fuck if you believe the truth is false. You can fuck off with your fucking disbelief. Screw you, I'm going back to my table. Kitsuki retorts, mini explosions occurring on his palms as he storms off. Petulant brat, Kyoka shouts after him. Codependent weakling. Hockey prick. Should I intervene? Izuku asks himself before dismissing the idea. They'll be fine. This is harmless. A few moments later. Boom dump. Kyoka shouts. Diz chugger. Kitsuki yells. Okay, maybe not. Who knew things would escalate this fast? A certain white-haired cosmic entity sneezes. Such vulgar obscenities are unbecoming of the UA students. I cannot let you tarnish the reputation of this illustrious establishment. Iida shouts, sending Ichako into a giggle fit. Iida is questioned about his vernacular, and it's revealed that he's the youngest brother of Ingenium and a member of a rich family. Soon after this, the alarm starts blaring. Code 3, everyone evacuate. One of the third years shouted, causing the student body to stampede towards the door. Izuku's group is quickly separated from Izuku and Kyoka. Once this occurs, he grabs Kyoka and leaps for the ceiling. What's going on? Who broke in? Izuku thinks as he peers out the window. He scans outside and sees the UA barrier destroyed. Paparazzi and reporters flood the courtyard only to be stopped by a familiar scarf, followed by a familiar voice yelling stop. Everyone calm down. Izuku shouts, but nobody listens. Okay, screw it. Izuku claps his hands while using the bare minimum of one for all. This creates a gust of wind that knocks everyone over like bowling pins. It's just the media, quit running around like chickens with their heads shot off. Izuku says as everyone regains their footing. That's our class rep, calm in the face of danger, Kaminari thinks to himself from the back of the group. I wish I could be that cool and confident. He continues to look on as Izuku guides everyone back to the lunchroom. I wonder why Lunch Rush didn't do anything. Wait, where did he go? This is weird. Kaminari scans the room and notices that the pro hero is nowhere in sight. I have a bad feeling in my chest, Denki Kaminari whispers to himself. Thanks for watching my video, and make sure to check out the author of this fanfic, link is in the description. See you next time, till then sayonara.